The moment Cheryl pried open the dusty, forgotten safe, her world shattered into fragments she never thought she'd have to piece back together. Inside was a letter that started with words she never expected, "To my dearest love, Susan." Her heart raced as she pulled out a stack of letters, each one a testament to a long-hidden affair. Cheryl could hardly breathe as the realization sank in. Tom had another life, another love that ran parallel to theirs. Cheryl sat on the cold basement floor, pictures and keepsakes from the past 3 decades of her marriage scattered around her. She felt betrayed, but more so, she felt haunted by the ghost of a stranger in her husband's skin. As she clutched the letters, a part of her wished she had never opened the safe. It had been a chance discovery in the basement, the safe covered in years of dust and neglect, that led her here. Tom had always been secretive about that corner of the basement, dismissing it as old junk. But now, Cheryl knew it was more, a tomb of secrets waiting to be unearthed. Determined to confront Tom, Cheryl composed a list of questions, each more searing than the last. Her hands trembled, not from anger, but from the deep hurt that gnawed at her insides. She knew she had to face him before the storm of emotions drowned her entirely. "Who is Susan?" she whispered to herself, practicing for the moment she'd finally ask him face to face. Memories lingered like ghosts, all the anniversaries, the whispered promises of forever, now shadowed by this betrayal. Flashbacks of their early days together flooded her mind, their first dance, their cross-country road trips, the nights spent under starlit skies. Each memory now felt tainted by his silent betrayal. Yet, as painful as it was, Cheryl couldn't let this deception define her. As Cheryl prepared for the confrontation, she rehearsed her words in front of the mirror, her reflection reminding her of the strength that lay within her. She was ready for whatever truth came next. It was time for the scales of justice to tip back in her favor, to reclaim her story and find the empowerment hidden within these trials. Cheryl paced the hallway, the polished wooden floors creaking under her weight, echoing her inner turmoil. Her mind was a cacophony of thoughts, each more piercing than the last. How had she missed the signs? Every warm smile Tom gave her, every tender moment, now seemed like a carefully crafted performance. Could she have been so blind? The evening sun cast long shadows in the living room as she heard Tom's car pull into the driveway. Her heart jumped, a mix of fear and resolve coursing through her veins. She had faced many challenges in her life, but this felt different. This was the man she had shared her dreams with, the father of her children, the center of her universe. Yet now, she was about to confront him about a secret life. Tom entered the room, his presence as familiar and comforting as it had ever been. He stopped short when he saw the stack of letters on the coffee table, Cheryl standing tense nearby. Her face, a mask of calm determination, betrayed nothing of the storm within. "Cheryl?" he asked, confusion painting his features as his eyes flicked from her to the letters. She took a deep breath, her voice steady but laced with steel. "I opened the safe, Tom." The color drained from his face, and for a moment, it seemed as if the air had been sucked from the room. Tom blinked, a mix of disbelief and fear clouding his eyes. "I can explain," he began in a voice that was too rehearsed, too ready, as though he had been preparing for this moment for years. Cheryl shook her head, cutting him off before he could weave another web of lies. "No more excuses, Tom. No more stories. I want the truth. All of it." He hesitated, looking down at his feet as though searching for an escape route. But there was none. Not this time. "Cheryl, it was before we met. Susan, she was someone I cared about deeply," he started, struggling to find the words as he gathered his thoughts. Her eyes narrowed, the betrayal now mingling with anger. "Before we met? These letters are dated throughout our marriage. You've been seeing her all these years?" Tom flinched at her accusation, his shoulders slumped under the weight of his secrets. "I never stopped loving you," he insisted, his voice a desperate whisper. "It was just, different with her. I never intended to hurt you." Cheryl's heart ached with the sting of his words. The hollow promise of love that was meant to be theirs alone now tainted by his confession. She felt the urge to cry, to scream, but instead, she remained composed, a testament to her inner strength. "But you did hurt me, Tom. Every single lie, every stolen moment, they cut deeper than you could know," she replied, her voice cracking slightly. There was a long silence as Tom took a tentative step toward her, but Cheryl lifted her hand to halt him. "What do I tell our children?" she asked, her eyes searching his for any signs of the man she once knew. Tom looked haunted, his features crumbling under the burden of her question. "I never wanted to ruin what we had. Maybe they don't need to know." Cheryl's laugh was bitter, a harsh sound that seemed foreign in the room they once filled with joy. "And continue the cycle of lies? I raised them to value honesty, Tom, something you seem to have forgotten." He nodded, knowing there was little left to argue. His world, once so carefully balanced between two loves, was now collapsing in on itself. The days that followed were a blur of emotion for Cheryl. She went through the motions of life, her mind often wandering back to the letters and the words Tom had spoken. Friends noticed her vacant stares, the way she seemed to navigate her days as if on autopilot. Only those closest to her recognized the deep hurt she was carrying, a burden she bore with quiet dignity. She had always prided herself on her resilience, but this betrayal tested her in ways she never imagined possible. Her nights were filled with restless dreams, shadows of old memories blending with new truths that haunted her sleep. But each morning, she rose with resolve, the promise of justice and truth guiding her. Cheryl knew she had to confront Susan, to hear the story from the other woman who had unwittingly become a part of her life. She reached out, a tentative message sent into the void, uncertain if it would elicit a response. Days went by, each one heavy with anticipation, until finally, an unfamiliar number flashed on her phone. Cheryl's heart raced as she answered, the voice on the other end soft yet tinged with the same nervousness she felt. "Cheryl?" the voice asked, tentative and wary. "Yes, it's me." "Thank you for agreeing to talk," Cheryl replied, trying to maintain a sense of calm. Their meeting was set for a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town, a neutral ground where they could speak freely. Cheryl arrived early, her fingers nervously tapping the rim of her coffee cup. Her mind raced with questions, each one clamoring for acknowledgement. When Susan arrived, Cheryl was struck by how ordinary she looked, just a woman like any other, caught in the complexities of life. There was no malice in her eyes, only a profound sadness that mirrored Cheryl's own. "Thank you for meeting me," Susan began, settling into the seat across from Cheryl. Her voice was gentle, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Cheryl nodded, meeting her gaze with a mix of curiosity and resolve. "I just want to understand, Susan. How did this happen?" Susan exhaled, her expression one of deep reflection. "I never meant to come between you and Tom, Cheryl. It started so long ago, back when we were young and thought the world was ours. When you and he got married, I thought it was over. But then he reached out to me, said he needed someone to talk to." The cafe seemed to fade away as Cheryl listened, her heart torn between anger and empathy. Susan continued, her voice steady. "We fell into something that felt familiar, a friendship that teetered on the edge of more. I always knew he loved you, though. There was never a question about that." Cheryl's eyes filled with tears, the final shred of her fortitude cracking under the weight of Susan's confession. "And you? Did you love him?" Susan's response was a whisper, barely audible over the hum of the cafe. "I think I did, in my own way. But we both knew it couldn't be more than what it was. Not while he had you." The revelation settled between them, a shared understanding of pain and longing. Cheryl let out a slow breath, absorbing the reality that had been hidden from her for so long. She felt a flicker of kinship with Susan, two women bound by the same man's choices, both victims of the secrets he kept. "I need to ask you something, Susan," Cheryl said, her voice stronger now. "Do you have any regrets?" Susan looked down at her hands, her expression contemplative. Every day, she admitted. I regret the hurt we've caused, the lies we've lived. Cheryl nodded, her heart heavy but determined. I'm grateful for your honesty. I think it's time for both of us to put this behind us, to find our own paths forward. Their conversation lingered long after they parted ways, leaving Cheryl with a sense of closure she hadn't anticipated. It wasn't the end of her journey, she knew, but it was a step toward healing, a chance to reclaim her life and face the future with newfound resilience. Cheryl's resolve hardened as she drove home from the cafe, the late afternoon sun casting a warm glow on the surrounding countryside. The conversation with Susan had been cathartic, a release of emotions that had been bottled up for far too long. Yet, the path to closure was still fraught with challenges she knew lay ahead. As she parked the car in the driveway, Cheryl took a moment to steel herself for what she needed to do next. The conversation with Susan had reinforced her decision to confront Tom with the full truth, a truth he could no longer evade. She walked into the house, each step heavy with determination. Tom was in the kitchen, his back turned as he prepared dinner. The domestic scene was painfully familiar, yet now tainted by everything she had learned. Cheryl watched him for a moment, a part of her still mourning the life they once shared. Tom, we need to talk, she said, breaking the silence that had settled between them since the night she found the letters. He turned, a shadow of worry passing over his features. Cheryl, I've been thinking about everything. I know I've hurt you, but I want to make things right. Cheryl nodded, appreciating the sincerity in his voice, but knowing that words alone would not suffice. I met with Susan, she stated plainly, watching his reaction closely. Tom's eyes widened, surprise mingling with an undercurrent of fear. You did? What did she say? She confirmed what I already knew, Cheryl replied, her tone steady but firm. But she also helped me see that living in deceit isn't the life I want for either of us. Tom looked down, his hands gripping the edge of the counter as if to steady himself. I never wanted this, Cheryl. I never wanted to put you through all this pain. Cheryl approached him, her voice softening as she stood beside him. I believe you, Tom. But we have to decide what's next. For us, and for our family. He nodded, a heavy sigh escaping his lips. I don't know if I can undo all the damage I've done, but I'm willing to try. I want to prove to you that I'm committed to making our marriage work. Cheryl looked at him, searching for the sincerity she desperately hoped was there. That means everything has to be out in the open, Tom. No more secrets. No more lies. Tom nodded again, his expression earnest. I'm ready, Cheryl. Whatever it takes. Over the next few weeks, they began the painstaking process of untangling the threads of their past. Counseling sessions helped them speak honestly, something that had been difficult for both in the wake of the betrayal. Cheryl found herself opening up about her fears and insecurities, while Tom confronted his own demons, his failings, his regrets, and the reasons he had allowed his relationship with Susan to persist for so long. It was not an easy journey. There were days when the weight of their shared history threatened to crush Cheryl's spirit, when the ghosts of the past seemed too overwhelming to defeat. But each session brought them closer, each conversation a small victory. In the quiet moments, Cheryl found solace in her children. Their laughter and innocence reminded her of the beauty still present in her life, the parts that were untainted and pure. She vowed to protect that, to ensure that they understood the importance of truth and integrity. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of pink and gold, Cheryl found the courage to ask the question that had been lingering in her mind. Tom, why did you keep seeing her all these years? He was silent for a moment, the distant sounds of the evening filling the space between them. I wish I had a simple answer, he finally said, his voice heavy with regret. But I think part of it was fear. Fear of losing someone important in my life, and fear of facing my own failures. Cheryl listened, understanding the complexity of emotions that drove him, even if she didn't fully comprehend his choices. Do you think you can let go of that fear? She asked gently. Tom turned to her, his expression earnest. I know I have to, if I want to be the man you deserve. The man our family needs. Cheryl nodded, a small, hopeful smile tugging at her lips. It was a start, a fragile, tentative beginning to something that could be rebuilt. Trust was a delicate thing, and she knew it would take time to mend the fractures in their relationship. As the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, Cheryl and Tom continued to navigate the rocky terrain of their renewed relationship. There were setbacks and disagreements, moments where doubt threatened to overshadow hope. But each time, they found a way back to each other, fueled by a shared commitment to healing. Cheryl also found strength in reaching out to others who had endured similar experiences. Online forums and support groups became a refuge, a place where she could share her story and, in turn, offer guidance to those still trapped in the throes of betrayal. Through these interactions, Cheryl discovered a deep well of resilience she hadn't known existed. She learned to forgive, not only Tom but also herself, for the years spent in unknowing ignorance. She realized that forgiveness wasn't about condoning past actions, but about freeing herself from the chains of anger and bitterness. Her journey toward healing was punctuated by moments of profound clarity, as she began to see her life through a new lens. What had once felt like an insurmountable obstacle now resembled a path laden with lessons, each one an opportunity for growth. Cheryl's heart, though scarred, was more open than ever before. She embraced the future with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to build a life that was honest and true. And while the remnants of Tom's betrayal would never fully disappear, they became part of a broader tapestry, a history that no longer bound her, but instead charted a course toward a future defined by strength, authenticity, and love. Each step taken was a testament to her resilience, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is a light waiting to be found. Cheryl was ready to find it, to embrace it, and to let it illuminate the path forward. As summer faded into autumn, Cheryl found herself at a precipice, ready to take the final steps in rebuilding her life. The leaves turned from vibrant greens to shades of amber and gold, mirroring the transformation within her own heart. She had worked tirelessly to mend the broken pieces of her marriage and to rediscover the strength within herself. One evening, as a chill settled in the air, Cheryl and Tom sat at the kitchen table, their conversation a comfortable rhythm of familiarity. Yet, amidst the warmth of their rekindled connection, Cheryl felt a lingering weight, a final truth that she needed to confront head-on. It was time to speak honestly with their children. Tom, Cheryl began, her voice quiet but firm, we need to tell the boys everything. They deserve to know the truth. Tom nodded, his eyes reflecting a shared resolution. You're right. We've come so far, and it's time. They decided to have the conversation over dinner that weekend, inviting their sons, Jake and Oliver, back home from college. Cheryl felt a pang of anxiety but knew that transparency was essential. Deception had no place in the life she was determined to build. The weekend arrived with crisp air and the promise of family reunion. As the boys walked through the front door, laughter and hugs enveloped the house, momentarily dispelling the tension. Cheryl took solace in the fact that this was home, a place where love always brought them back together. After dinner, as the plates were cleared and the fire crackled warmly in the living room, Cheryl took a deep breath. Her heart thrummed with both fear and hope as she prepared to lay everything bare. Jake, Oliver, she began, her voice steady, we asked you both here because there's something important we need to discuss. The boys exchanged curious glances, sensing the gravity in their mother's tone. Cheryl continued, glancing at Tom for support. Your father and I have been through a lot in the past few months. We've faced some difficult truths, things that were hidden for too long. Tom leaned forward, his expression earnest. I want you both to understand that I made mistakes. Mistakes that hurt your mother and have affected our family. The boys listened intently, their youthful features a mixture of concern and curiosity. Cheryl could see pieces of herself and Tom in each of them, the same values, the same resilience they hoped to instill. Cheryl's eyes met theirs, her gaze unwavering. Your father had a relationship with someone else during our marriage, a part of his life that we only just uncovered. It's been hard to process, but we wanted you to hear it from us. There was a beat of silence as the words settled in, both Jake and Oliver absorbing the revelation with maturity beyond their years. Jake was the first to speak, his voice steady. "Mom, are you okay?" Cheryl smiled softly, her heart swelling with love and gratitude. "I am now. We both are. It's been a journey, but we've come through stronger." Oliver, always the more contemplative of the two, asked, "Dad, why did you do it?" Tom sighed, struggling for the right words to explain the incomprehensible. "I wish I had a clear answer, Ollie. At the time, I was lost and didn't know how to deal with my own fears and insecurities. But that's no excuse for the pain I caused." Jake nodded, frowning slightly. "And Susan? Does she know about all this?" "She does," Cheryl replied gently. "I've spoken to her, and she understands the hurt that's been caused. It's over now." The conversation lingered, emotions ebbing and flowing like tides. But as they continued to talk, Cheryl saw the understanding and compassion begin to root in her sons. She realized the immense capacity for forgiveness that her family possessed, an invaluable gift in their healing process. Eventually, the evening wound down, leaving a sense of relief and renewed connection. As Cheryl and Tom bid their sons goodnight, Cheryl felt a lightness she hadn't in years. The next morning, Cheryl stood by the window, watching the sun rise over their garden, its light casting a warm glow over the landscape. Tom joined her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. They stood in silence, a shared peace enveloping them. "Thank you for pushing for this," Tom said softly, breaking the silence. "I know it was the right thing to do." Cheryl nodded, leaning into the warmth of his embrace. "It's a new beginning, Tom. For all of us." The months that followed were filled with quiet, thoughtful moments of rebuilding. Cheryl and Tom continued to nurture their relationship, attending counseling sessions and exploring new ways to connect. Cheryl also threw herself into volunteer work, giving back to the community that had supported her during her darkest days. Helping others gave her life new meaning and purpose, a way to channel her pain into something transformative. As the holiday season approached, their home once again filled with the warmth of family and friends. The past year had been a test of character and resolve, but it had also been a testament to the enduring power of love and forgiveness. On Christmas Eve, as the family gathered around the tree, Cheryl felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. They exchanged gifts and stories, laughter echoing off the walls of the home that had witnessed so much change. It was during this moment, surrounded by love, that Cheryl realized she had truly found peace. The scars of betrayal were still there, faint reminders of a chapter that had finally closed, but they no longer defined her. She was more than the sum of past mistakes, stronger and more courageous for having faced them. As she looked around at the faces of those she loved, Cheryl whispered a silent promise to herself, to continue living with authenticity, to hold on to hope, and to cherish every moment with those who mattered most. And so, in the heart of winter, Cheryl discovered the warmth of a new season, a season of redemption and renewal, where her heart, once burdened by secrets, now soared free.